Look at the people that you're going to see each day. Look at their faces. Look in their eyes. Recognize that each of the people that we meet on any given day have their own story. They have a story to tell. They have a story to share. If you just go through the day with those kind of things in mind, despite all the other stuff that you have to do, that just doing that will make it a really good day. And it will help you. And the only way that we can find stuff out like this, the only way we can do it?
How's that?
Just try it.
When life throws a challenge at you, one thing is certain. To find a resolution for every issue, every problem, for everybody, there's more than one way. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the More Than One Way podcast. We're glad you're with us today. With me, as always, is Thom Rasnick.
Hey, Whitney.
Hey,
and
Thom.
everybody.
How you doing today?
I'm good.
Good. We've talked about over the past few episodes. We've talked about some pretty difficult topics like anxiety, and we talked about busyness and when bad things happen to good people. Today we're going to lighten it up a little bit, and we're going to talk about gratitude.
Great. God, man, I was looking forward to a lighten it up a little bit episode.
Time for a little bit of a shift, I guess.
Yeah. This is a great shift because gratitude is in the spiritual realm, gratitude is such a helpful condition, attitude, way to be, and it just not only helps the person who has the gratitude, but people who are around them as well. So
Sure.
This will be great.
Great. So in thinking about gratitude, I think you had a story that you were wanting to open with.
Yeah, I went and looked on good old YouTube. YouTube has stories about everything.
I'm so grateful for YouTube.
I am too. They have the most obscure things and things about something like gratitude. And one of them was, looked like they were about a second grade class,
Mm-hmm.
and the teacher had them do an assignment in class for the day, and it was draw a picture of, and then come up and we'll talk about the picture with each other of one thing that you're grateful for. One thing that you're grateful for. So the kids jumped right in. They all really got right into it. And they finished up, and the first little girl went up, and she had a picture of trees, and she said, "I am grateful for trees because they give us oxygen." I thought, that's
nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then the second little kid got up, and he had two little stick figures, and he said, "These are my parents, and I'm grateful for my parents because without them, I wouldn't even be here. And they help me with my homework, and they give me food to eat, and they just love me." And that was kind of sweet, right? And third kid got up and said, "I'm grateful for chocolate." And you don't have to go much further than that, right? You don't have to explain that. Everybody's grateful for chocolate. And I thought as I was watching this, so they're all different responses, all just a little bit of a different way of presenting it, all different things that are a part of these children's lives. And each of them had a kind of a different way to express it, but they all had one thing in common. And the one thing that they had in common was to not take everyday things, sometimes simple things, sometimes people, sometimes nature, but don't take any of that stuff for granted. It's so easy, and I don't know about you, Whitney, but in my life, it's so easy for me to get so caught up in the things that I have to do or the things that I think I'm supposed to be about. And then I just forget the people who are around me, who are closest to me, or things as easy to pass by as something like a tree.
Yeah.
And forget that without trees, there's no oxygen, and we're not here.
Yeah.
So that's one of the great things that I got from that little video that just supports what I said about gratitude. It really, really, really helps us, in this instance, not forget to be grateful for things that are easy to just take for granted.
Yeah. I think definitely with the kind of the pattern of our lives, we've talked about that some, it's easy to get in a routine that we're not looking around us or taking the time to just to be aware of those blessings around us all the time.
Yeah, just to see them and recognize them. And I think sometimes you have to do something like the little assignment the teacher had for them. In in the spiritual realm, those things are called practices. It's good to cultivate. In order to cultivate things like gratitude in your life, practices help. Mm-hmm. Having something that you do, hopefully day in, day out, or if not day in, day out, pretty close to day in, day out, that reminds me to try to cultivate this attitude of gratitude. Mm-hmm. And a friend of mine was telling me something that she does. She says every night before she goes to bed, especially when she can't find a way to fall asleep, she just either writes down or at least just thinks of 3 things that she's been grateful for the day. Mm-hmm. And that somehow or another doing that each night has an effect on her and helps her to, in this instance, fall asleep. And then hopefully then wake up the next day with that on her mind in a sense. And hey, I'm sure you've heard of that. People keeping like what's known as a gratitude journal or something like that. Yeah. Have you ever tried that?
I have tried it, and I find it helpful as well. You know, I think it's something where it seems like a fairly simple thing just to write down a few things that you're grateful for, or to kind of look back at your day and point out those moments. But, you know, gratitude, it does something to us internally.
Yeah.
You know, it has that ability to calm us, like in the story that you mentioned, or to change our perspective, or just, you know, it's interesting in that practice that something so simple can make a real difference.
Yes. And it's same with me when I've practiced doing something similar, though not identical, is to try to remember things that I'm grateful for and start with the things that are closest, because for whatever reason, those can be the easiest to just forget about. Yeah. And when I do that, so for instance, I'll be thankful for my dog. I mean, I just love my dog. He's great.
Dogs are the best.
They are the best. And I think my dog's in the top 10, I'd say, of all dogs.
I've met your dog, and I would say, yeah, I agree.
Well, there you go. So then you could see why, you know, me and kind of remembering, not just, you know, I can rush out of the house too easy and not give him his due. And when I remember and I'm grateful for him, it does do something to me internally. It does something to me, sets me about the day in such a way that I'm kind of looking for things that are going to help me to be grateful, rather than perhaps looking for negative things or something like that.
So it really heightens your awareness.
Yeah. It really does. And the other thing that something like that does with him is it helps me to see, you know, I didn't do anything to create that dog. Mm-hmm. He wasn't my idea. It wasn't like I said, hey, I think I'll, you know, make a Sawyer. And he just came. We were just had the opportunity to purchase this dog. Mm-hmm. And so by remembering that and thinking about that, it reminds me of another piece to the whole gratitude thing, and that is that life's a gift. That all this that we're a part of is a gift. All the stuff, all the mystery and the beauty and the wonder and even the difficulties of nature and life, it's all a gift. And we get to participate in it, and we get to be a part of it. And you know, I saw another video. I watch a lot of videos. You know, it's funny that I never really thought about this, but every time I'm talking to you, it's like I watched the video. But I did. And it's from a guy who's a Benedictine monk, and his name is David Stendhal Rost. And he does a video that I would suggest for anybody to watch, and it's called A Good Day. And you can see it on YouTube.
We'll link it for you.
It's really, so a good day, and it's the whole thing is just a deep meditation about the day that you've been given. Mm-hmm. You know, to remind anybody who's watching it, remember, this is the day that you have. Not yesterday, not tomorrow. Today's the day. This is the only day you have in many ways. This is the gift. And so pay attention to it. It's kind of like what we were saying prior to. Mm-hmm. Look at the sky. Look at the trees. Look at just the how everything in the day is its own way on that particular day. Maybe tomorrow it'll be totally different. Mm-hmm. and wonder and appreciate and, in a sense, be grateful for all of that. And then he says, and look at the people. Look at the people that you're going to see each day. Look at their faces. Look in their eyes. Recognize that each of the people that we meet on any given day have their own story. They have a story to tell. They have a story to share. And he says, if you just go through the day with those kind of things in mind, despite all the other stuff that you have to do, that just doing that will make it a really good day. And it will help you. And the only way that we can find stuff out like this, the only way we can do it?
How's that?
Just try it.
Yeah.
Just try. Just give it a go. And that's the thing about gratitude. I think that's why everybody always says there has to be some kind of a practice. There has to be some kind of a way to help you, because the only way to do it is to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't that profound? I thought that was really profound.
Well, and we talked about that this topic, it can be challenging to talk about.
Yes.
Because it is such an internal feeling type of thing. It's hard to just say gratitude, 1, 2, 3.
Right.
When it's something that you experience, and it's even in seeing someone else experience it affects you.
Yeah, it can have an impact on you. And I heard a story about somebody who was in that place, and this kind of, in a way, takes gratitude to another level, because a lot of times the things we just got finished talking about are kind of happy things,
mm-hmm.
things that are positive, things that help us. But this story is about a woman who had found out that she had brain cancer. And before she found out she had brain cancer, she was visiting a kindergarten class, and a friend of hers was teaching the kindergarten class. And she would have her children every morning kiss their brain. So what that meant was that they would put their fingers to their lips and then kiss their fingers and then touch their head.
Uh-huh.
And they did that every morning. It was to kind of give thanks for your brain. Give thanks for, and it was like, once again, one of those, how cute, little kids. She taught middle school at the time, and she thought, no, I wonder if they'll do this. No, that was a brave thing to try to bring that to middle schools, because it could have gone very, very wrong. But she brought it to the middle school kids, and it didn't go very wrong. They loved it too, and it became their daily practice.
Oh, nice.
Kiss their fingers, kiss their brain. And so then she continued on with her schooling, got a PhD in psychology and some other, actually brain research and other things like that, and was teaching in a college. And she said she was a little bit too embarrassed to do it with them, so she never did. And then tragedy struck, and she ended up getting this brain tumor. So while she was going through her treatments and things, she remembered some of the stuff that she talked about, that some of the stuff that we just talked about with gratitude, that how it's helpful for you, how it helps you move forward in life. And she was wondering, well, is that true in a situation like this? When life is hard and is not going the exact way that I want it to go. So what she tried to do was return to that kisser brain for a symbol of gratitude. Gratitude for her brain. So she started doing that every day, in addition to all the other treatment that she had to do. And what she found was it pointed her in the direction of gratitude. It pointed her in the direction of, instead of seeing like all the things that were going wrong inside of her brain, start seeing things that were amazing that were going on inside of her brain. Like, I think one of the things she said was the doctors told her that once the chemo killed the brain cells and killed the other cells, the good cells, the healthy cells would regenerate, would come back, but the cancer cells wouldn't.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So she started focusing on that and being grateful for her brain for that. So she found out, now this is nothing against this, she found out that most of the language used for cancer is like a military language, like war, like fight it, beat it, kill it. And understand completely that might be very helpful for people, but it wasn't helpful for her because it took her out of that gratitude mode. and put her into the mode of competition and fight.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So she just kept doing that. So she would give thanks every day for her team, the people, like a nurse who got the IV in on the first try, like the anesthesiologist who held her hand while she was awake until she fell asleep. So little things like that became these huge things.
Yeah.
And once again, and just the amazing gift of her brain, even though her brain had this horrible tumor. So it became part of who she was, right? So her gratitude became part of who she was and not solely dependent on whatever was going on externally that she either liked or didn't like. And that, when we can get to that point, that's an amazing place to live.
Yeah. Wow, that's an incredible story.
Yeah, so she did a TED Talk, and so I think her TED Talk is a way to try to share this with other people and help them to see, hey, this is my way of being grateful, and this was my way of dealing with something very difficult, and this is how it has helped me. Maybe it'll help you.
And I think that's, sharing with each other those ways that we've found, knowing that obviously there's more than one way to be grateful or to express that.
Yeah.
And just sharing with each other what we found and how we found it helpful, I think is a good place to start. I think it's a place that any listener can start with, is just thinking about what's been good or what's worked for them and sharing it with someone else or asking someone else, what have you found helpful?
Yes, no doubt about that. And then understanding that what I do to help me with gratefulness might not necessarily be what's helpful to you, and vice versa. So I don't have to force it on you.
Right.
I mean, one of the worst things in the world would be for somebody to go in, say, for instance, with a person with a brain tumor and says, "Oh, I see that you got cancer." Well, you ought to be grateful, because so many other people don't have the resources that you have in order to go and get this check, or, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I can't force it. Nobody can force gratefulness on somebody else. It is something that we have to experience. But these practices that people have showed us before can help almost like prime us to see things and to feel things within ourselves that will help us with gratefulness.
A practice that someone shared with me the other day I thought was really interesting, and it was just had to do with language and just kind of how we use our language.
Yeah.
And they were saying that instead of kind of approaching the day with I have to go to work today, something as little as changing that to say, I get to go to work today.
Yeah.
Something that small could make a real difference in their perspective for the day, and that really got me thinking about, okay, what are those little things, maybe, not even saying it out loud, but that I'm thinking, that if just a little bit of a shift in the way that I'm thinking about it could open up an entirely new perspective for the day.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it might be, so say you have an encounter with somebody who, somebody at a grocery store or a bank, and they haven't responded to you the way that you'd hope that they responded to you. Maybe they were short, maybe they were. So instead of taking offense at something like that, could be grateful that they're there working, giving our society what's going on now. It's, there's a lot of places where people aren't working.
Right.
So be grateful for that. And then keep in mind, you don't know what's going on with that person once again. Sure. So starting with gratefulness might then just, like you say, shift and open up something in myself, so that I don't have to necessarily just take things like that personally.
Yeah.
And we could go on and on about that. I remember you were talking about somebody who does a practice.
Yeah, there's an author, I was reading their book, and they were talking about that they do a intentional day of discomfort each month, where they sleep on the floor, they take a cold shower, they fast, with the idea that doing that one day a month helps them be grateful for the small things that they have every day that they take for granted. So kind of having an intentional time each month where they might sleep outside one time, or just putting themselves in an uncomfortable position from what they're used to.
Yeah.
Helps them with that gratitude.
So something like sleeping outside on the ground would the next night when you went and slept in your bed, you'd be very grateful for your
Right.
bed.
Yeah.
Or so sometimes that's a helpful way to go about it, to say, I'll do without something.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I get to do it again, it sparks that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so easy sometimes, I think, in life to just, once again, get into the almost autopilot.
Yeah.
And then you start taking things for granted. And I can speak for myself. When I'm in that place, then I tend to be more upset when things get in the way of the way I think it's supposed to go, rather than saying, no, this is the new day, and this is what's going on. I remember one time somebody was talking about traffic and driving
Mm-hmm.
and getting cut off. And there's so many different people who have that experience of getting cut off, and
Mm-hmm.
most people get frustrated. And he was telling me about a friend of his who, whenever she gets cut off, she always goes, oh. She always goes, oh, you must have really needed to be right there. Oh, go right ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And that just changed, once again, it changed her whole way of, instead of getting upset and being
Right.
frustrated and then driving the rest of the way upset and frustrated, she just reframed it.
Yeah. My mom has a friend of hers that was a mentor for her, and she always used to talk about divine delays, that whenever she felt like she was having to wait too long or something didn't go according to the schedule, she would take that as, there's a reason maybe that I'm being delayed. Maybe I'm going to notice something. Maybe I'm going to meet someone. Maybe there's something that will come in my path that wouldn't have had I been right on schedule all the time.
Right.
So I just thought that was an interesting way to look at
Yeah.
kind of timing in the same way you were talking about with traffic.
Yeah. Yeah. Rather than being frustrated that you're being, slowed down.
Yeah.
Right.
So Thom, if you're in one of those situations, kind of in a difficult time of life, and you don't find yourself ready to be grateful yet, what do you do? Or how do you?
Well, I think the first thing is you really accept that, okay, so this is where I am and I'm not ready to be grateful. And that's okay. That's perfectly okay. It's not okay for people to try to force me or you or anybody else into gratefulness.
Yeah.
It's just not possible. You can't really do it. And that reminds me of not a YouTube thing, but of a TV show.
Okay.
Probably
I
one of the
remember
most
television.
spiritually oriented TV shows known to humanity, and that is The Simpsons.
Oh.
And The Simpsons, there's this episode where Lisa is very depressed.
Mm.
She's just almost in that teenage kind of sense of angst.
Mm-hmm.
And day in, day out, she's in that place, and everybody keeps trying to get her out of it. Be happy, pointing out all the things that she should be grateful for.
Yeah.
And the more people do that, it's almost like the more depressed she gets.
Mm.
It has the opposite effect. And so they just keep trying because I think sometimes we don't know what else to do. And
Right.
nobody's trying to be bad,
Mm-hmm.
just don't know what else to do. Until finally her mom steps in and says, Lisa, it's okay. You be as depressed as you need to be, and just know that we'll be here for you.
Mm.
And in the episode, you can kind of see little Lisa's face just totally change. It's not like it cured her,
Yeah.
but it was almost like gave her permission to be how she was
Mm-hmm.
at that moment. And that's all we can be as human beings.
Right.
Right. So you cannot force gratefulness. You cannot fake it. We can practice things, as we've said before,
Mm-hmm.
that can try to help cultivate it. But so that's what I would say is then you'll just have to wait. It'll come in time.
And I really like that term practice, because I think about, practice is a place where we learn, where we make mistakes. We're just trying something out,
Yes.
just trying it on to see if it fits. And
Yes.
if we find something that does, then we can continue to find ways to get better and better at it.
Right. And it'll be different for each of us.
Mm-hmm.
Though there might be some commonalities, it'll be different for each of us.
Yeah. So we hope today, as we've talked about gratitude, that we've given you something to think about. And we would love to hear from you about different practices or maybe different things that you've tried that have helped you kind of on your path to cultivate that gratitude. Feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to hear your feedback, and we'd love to hear what works for you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the More Than One Way podcast, brought to you by the Center for Spiritual Practice in Knoxville, Tennessee. We really appreciate your time and would love to hear your feedback. You can reach us by emailing hello@morethanonewaypod.com, or you can connect with us on social media using the handle @morethanonewaypod. If you found this episode helpful, we hope that you'll share it with your friends, with your family, with people you work with all the people who you know. Thank you and take care.